We all saw what happened at Hayward Field in Eugene. Fred Kerley sent the crowd into raptures after winning the 100-meter sprint at the World Athletic Championship with a timing of 9.86. Also, Indian fans had a lot of expectations from Murali Sreeshankar, but he finished the long jump finals in the 7th spot. The Indian national record holder at 8.36 could only pull off a jump of 7.96 in the finals of the event. Let's quickly have a glance at the major events of day 2. Sandeep, Bracy was ahead of Kerley at one point in time, but the world champion managed to overhaul his counterpart in the final stage of the race. What was the reason behind that?
I think if you really look at the reaction times, and from whatever we spoke yesterday, I really thought Coleman would, come up. But yeah, I mean, I think the last 1 year and all of that stuff that he's gone through, not going to Tokyo, all the pressure, the media kind of, hounded him out at that particular time. I think that's probably got to him because his body language wasn't great, neither in the heats and neither in the semis. But reaction time, his was the best. So looking at that, the first 20-30 meters, you thought Coleman's going to push.
Right.
Now, push means the others also get pushed. But the reaction time of our man, Kerley, was number 3. Yet he kind of, you could see him, kind of, it's like a cycle. You go off to a slow start and then you start pedaling up. He actually didn't really need to. What really happened is that while he was there, he was there for 90 meters as number 2. It's only on the line that he pipped him. But that comes from belief and faith. And this man is a monster. He's literally a monster. You can't lose. Somebody who does a 100, who does a 200, who does a 400, all below 44, all below 20 and all below 10 in terms of seconds, it's very difficult to beat somebody like this. And as people say that if you are a fantastic 400-meter runner, then your staying power during that stage between 40 and 90 increases immensely. Now that's exactly what we saw. He was there, was there, and then he pipped him. Otherwise, what would have happened if the second man was, I wouldn't say powerful, but if the second man wasn't overawed by the situation, by the occasion, by him itself, he would have probably got the gold. But this is what champions are made of, and he did it. He knew that this is not going to be a great timing. You could see that in the race. 50th meter onwards, you knew that this is not going to be one of those 9.69, 9.79 or even higher. So the world record was out. But here the gold medal was on the line and he needed it after Tokyo, after missing that medal out there. This is what he was gunning for and he gunned for it and he got it. That's what Kerley is made of.
Rightly mentioned, Sandeep. Also, Amit, your take on Kerley's final dash in the 100-meter sprint?
I think it was a great occasion, especially for American fans. You look at the World Championships coming to USA for the first time ever, and having an American 1, 2, 3 in a race that literally brings the crowd, to the edge of their seats. If you've ever been inside a stadium for a 100-meter race, you would know that the seconds before the 100-meter race actually starts, you can literally hear a pin drop inside the stadium. It is that quiet. It's the collective sound of an entire stadium, kind of holding its breath because they don't know what to say. They don't want to make a noise and disturb the runners. And as soon as the starter's gun goes off, you hear the entire stadium jump on its feet and start shouting for 10 whole seconds until the winner is decided. So that was the same that we saw today. From the start to the end, it was a lot of dramatic build-up. In fact, the Americans actually flew fighter planes over the stadium just before the start of the 100-meter race. So in terms of dramatic build-up, this was as good as it gets.
Rightly mentioned, Amit. Also, Sandeep, he has performed in 100-meter, 200-meter and 400-meter sprint events, and he is even a world champion at 400-meter. So, Sandeep, do you think that he will stick to all these 3 events or will he just focus on 100-meter from now on?
I don't think he's going to stick to the 400 because the reason to switch to the 100 and the 200 in a way, but 100 largely, was because being a 400-meter runner, there's the complete bend, and on the bends, if you really recall and if you see what's happened in the last 1 year, which is early 2021, was that his ankles used to get swollen up. They used to get swollen up so bad that it was difficult to even walk, leave alone run.
Okay.
That's when he was pushed, okay, let's try the, not even try, okay, let's do the 100. Because he's unable to do the 400, let's do the 100 today. In the 100, he suddenly found himself flying, you know, virtually. There was a lot of freedom in terms of his running. He wasn't feeling pain in terms of the ankles, and all of that happened. And then in the US trials, he was there for the 100, 200 and the 400, and then he decided to skip the 400 and come to the 100.
100, yeah.
And that's when he suddenly saw that he was this
He received a lot of criticism at that point of time.
huge amounts. People were laughing. I mean, like, if you are world champion at 400 or 200, and then you decide that, okay, I mean, just for example, suddenly you say, I want to do the 800. Everybody's going to be critical. Everybody's going to laugh at a point that you got something good going. Why are you jumping over? But leave alone that, today he's there. I mean, and along with Johnson, I think but from whatever I saw in the interviews later and whatever I've read, I think he's also asked that if he can be part of the 4x100 relay, if he can be part of the 4x400 one. Because on the split, I think he can do 43 easily. There will not be a problem for him. But again, it depends on whether he really wants to test that ankle again, whether he wants to take all of that. Yes, he's going to stick to the 100, and I believe, looking at him, looking at his form, looking at the way he is, he's going to be there for a decent amount of time.
Certainly, Kerley has proved everyone wrong as of now. But Amit, clean sweep for USA at the World Athletic Championship 100 meter. Kerley at first, Bracy at second, and Bromell at third. The Americans have done it for the third time, first in 83, then in 91, then this year. So what does this mean for 4x100 meter relay, Amit? Is USA a sure shot winner at that particular event now?
I think going by the sheer numbers, you know, that there was a time from 2008 onwards when the Jamaicans used to dominate those relay events, because we knew that the Jamaicans had some of the fastest sprinters. So that just naturally translated into mixed relay teams being really fast, and you know, the men's and women's relay teams being really fast from Jamaica. So going by that, going by the fact that the Americans have top 3 fastest men in the world in their ranks, obviously you should, it would not be, you know, shocking or surprising to assume that they would be the fastest in the relay.
Sandeep, what's your take on this?
I think they're going to sweep that also. I don't think there'll be an issue, because clearly the team strength is there. Even with Coleman not probably, you know, up to the mark, I still believe that when you're running the relay, there's a different feel. There is a different feel to the race. There's a different feel to the sprint. And then the selection of who's going to go where, that becomes extremely crucial. But looking at the strengths, looking at the kind of timings these guys are going to give, or they are giving already, the relay, in a way, should be a cakewalk, unless something like what Dominican Republic did in the mixed one, something like that comes up. That's extraordinary. Or something like what we can discuss later on in the long jump. Some performance like that comes as a surprise. Only then can they get beaten.
Right, Sandeep, in the mixed relay, Allison won the bronze, and USA has been having a great championship so far. They have the gold, silver and bronze in 100 meter. And then the LA-born track and field legend Allison Felix won bronze in her final championship race. So the American athletes are sentimentally charged at the moment, but they aren't getting enough support at Hayward Field, which is the track town of USA, Eugene. So even Michael Johnson mentioned it in his tweet yesterday. Amit, what's the reason behind this, according to you?
You know, Hardik, there are a couple of reasons. When you spoke about that Michael Johnson tweet, in the column in BBC, Michael Johnson also mentioned that, you know, a lot of people from outside will probably be looking at the fact that, you know, the World Championships are being hosted in USA at the time when the NBA is not going around, is not happening. American football is not happening. So it's essentially not competing with those two behemoths of American sport. But the other thing is, the problem is that there are so many other leagues like ice hockey, WNBA, all of those are cramped in these tiny windows where these two big leagues are not happening. So the World Track and Field Championships is basically competing with those guys for eyeball. On the second part of the fans not coming to the stadiums, one of the biggest problems is that uh, Eugene is a town with just 1,70,000 population. In a town which is that small, obviously there are not going to be too many hotels uh, for fans to come in and stay, which means prices for everything are going to be high. So obviously, if you're a track and field fan, you would rather want to watch it from your home because NBC obviously is broadcasting the whole thing just as they do for the Olympics. So what has happened is a lot of people have obviously decided to stay at home and watch it rather than going all the way to Eugene and watching these games. The third aspect of why these games, these championships have not really gotten at least the fans into the seats is as Michael Johnson wrote in his column for BBC that the rest of the leagues in USA usually try and go out of their way and court audiences through a round the year coverage. The World Track Championships or World Athletics Championships have not really done that. You can't expect to start wooing, fans 2 months in advance and then expect them to turn up in numbers. You have to do that for a much sustained period of time. You need to go all out, tell them that, these are the biggest narratives, these are the biggest guys that you need to follow. Alison Felix is going to be in the final in her last phase in the first event of in the first night. So that is how they should have probably done it, which is what Michael Johnson also has mentioned. So I think that is one of the reasons why we haven't seen a lot of fans. Obviously, there are sufficient number of fans as opposed to what we saw in Doha in 2019. Obviously, there are a lot of fans, but for athletics and track and field as a as an organization, they really need to court and they really need to get the attention, grab the imaginations of the US audiences, because once you do that, naturally the sport flourishes.
Right, Amit. And Amit, let's move on to the long jump event now. Sreeshankar just 4 places away from the medal. His personal best of 8.36 was the tally of the winner, Jianin Wong. Why did the Indian long jumper fell short, Amit? Was something wrong in his technique, or it was not just his day?
I'm not sure it's about the technique so much because at these levels you don't really forget technique, and if you're forgetting technique or you're making mistakes in technique, it's not really a technical thing, it's mostly a mental thing. uh, Very recently I had a conversation with Neeraj Chopra's coach, Dr. Klaus Bartonietz, where he said something that really stood out. He mentioned that Neeraj is not somebody who throws the javelin 89 meters or 88 meters or 9. Definitely, it does not hit 90 meters in training, because he says that Neeraj usually throws around 4 to 5 meters behind what he throws in an actual competition. So he mentioned that there are a lot of these athletes who do a certain distance, do a certain time in training, but when they actually go into competition, those numbers are behind. What does that mean? That means that they are somebody who get overawed by the occasion. They let the occasion get to them, and which is what eventually affects them. Klaus Bartonietz, perhaps a little cruelly, called it, said that there are a lot of athletes who are world champions only in training.
Right, Amit. Sandeep, did you expect Sreeshankar to end in the 7th spot?
No, I mean, it's not disappointing if you really analyze Sreeshankar's thing. It's not disappointing because first of all, you got to understand, first time in a World Championship final. It's a big occasion. You hardly see Sreeshankar going out competing in various events abroad, from where he meets these people. That's the difference between Neeraj and him now. Moment he starts going out, moment he starts jumping with other big ones, that's the time when you start looking at other people and you know what they're going to do and what am I supposed to do. He slightly looked like, like this is my first occasion. Am I supposed to be careful? Can't do too many fouls. need to do 8:15, 8:20 because I need a medal also. I think all those pressures play. They were playing on the others. You look at the way others were jumping. So just to focus on Sreeshankar and feel and say that, that, okay, he's failed, I think would be a wrong assessment. He's not failed by any standards. He's probably going to take this experience, honestly, and move up, because he has all the attributes of a very decent world-class long jumper. He is a top 6 guy. Let's not get away from that fact. Only thing now is, how many times can he go abroad? How many times can he compete? Is the AFI going to back him all that way? That, okay, fine, guy, you got into the final. Now we're going to help you get onto the podium. That is where the difference is going to lie. And I hope that, the sponsors come up and everybody kind of backs him, so that at least for the next Olympics, you have somebody who's a genuine podium finisher out there.
Right. As Sandeep and Amit mentioned, psychology plays a big factor in a player's success at these events. But Sandeep, something extraordinary happened today. Wong, who was in the 6th spot before the last jump, surpassed the favorite Ten Gonglu to win the gold at long jump at World Athletics. So Sandeep, have you seen something like this before?
No, you see it on a track a lot of times, but when it comes to the last, whether it is javelin, whether it is shot put, whether it is discus, and I think we were discussing that, how many times are you on the last jump, on the last throw, and you are 7 or 6 behind in terms of the ranking, and then you catapult yourself into top position? It rarely happens. And this is one of those great moments. And I think at that point of time, we were watching on TV, and I think Felix was there, and she was so excited in the commentary box, because she was saying, this is what modern sport is all about. This is what world sport is all about. That, okay, fine, your favorite is not going to win. He's the Olympic champion, and he wanted this medal very badly. But you suddenly have this guy who comes up. But if you really analyze that jump, I think it was perfect. The run-up was perfect, the sprint was good, the hands were moving perfectly, and you could feel it while you were watching it. If he hits the spot perfect, then he's going to really go. And look at that jump that he did. I mean, it was extraordinary in that sense, and that probably now takes him into a league of, I think you were the one who pointed out, where did he finish in Tokyo? He didn't finish anywhere. He was not in the final. He didn't even qualify. Now, for somebody who hasn't done all of that to suddenly go from the position he was to the gold medal, also gives me that there's massive amount of hope for Sreeshankar, Because so if you're going to look at in terms of examples, I think this is the perfect example for everybody to back Sreeshankar. That if an unknown, not an unknown, he's a world U20 champion. Let's not get away from that. But somebody who can jump from that position into gold medal speaks a lot about ability, speaks a lot about how you can put yourself into that situation. And I think Sreeshankar has everything to at least get into those kind of areas, at least onto the 1, 2, 3 podium in the next couple of championships or wherever he's going to participate.
Right, Sandeep. So, Amit, also throw some light on Ten Gonglu, who was the favorite, but he couldn't win. He was really disappointed after his final jump. So, your take on that, Amit?
As I had mentioned in yesterday's show also, Tentoglu is somebody who was really gunning for the gold medal at these World Championships, because this is the only one win that is not there in his trophy cupboard. He's a world indoor champion. He's an European indoor and outdoor world champion. He's also an Olympic gold medalist. So this was really the only gold medal that is remaining, and he's only 24. So obviously he had a lot of expectations. By the 5th jump, if you had noticed, he was all of his jumps that he had, the legal jumps that he had registered, all of those were much better than the second jumper's best jump. So he was anyway. I'm assuming in his mind he had already started to imagine himself getting the gold medal around his neck, or maybe he had started to hear the Greek national anthem playing somewhere in the stadium. I'm assuming that is what would have happened, and then suddenly this Chinese jumper comes and jolts him back to reality, essentially like holding a sulfur salt underneath his neck, underneath his nose.
Right, Amit. Before we end the show, we have this quote that Sandeep has chosen from Washington Post, Kerley barrels through the tape as if trying to stomp on his opponent's soul. Why particularly this, Sandeep?
I think this, for me, it's really stood out, you know. It's been a long time since you saw a 100-meter champion, and Usain Bolt was not somebody like that. I mean, he was a fun guy, you know. He was tremendously brilliant. He was probably the greatest. I mean, if you really look at rankings and you go through arguments, opinions, you know, all of that. But you hardly see somebody who's like out there meant for the 100, you know, who's out there because, you know, he doesn't talk. He doesn't smile. There have been comments saying that, you know, Usain used to win, but he used to smile. You know, you don't compare it like that. But this is in reality what Valery Borzov was all about. You know, you go back to 1976, 72. He was the guy who won the 100 and the 200 at that time, and he was something like this. There was no smile. He was like a ghost out there. You could never take an emotion out of him. You know, you ask him a question that, you know, how did you win, and he will look at you and say, well, I won. That's all. And that is how the opponents used to react to him. They didn't know what he was, and it was similar when I saw him running here, and I was taken back to Borzov's comments, you know, at that point of time, and what sports writers used to write then. And then suddenly I read this in the Washington Post. It completely stood out. This is what he is in a way, that, you know, he goes out there and he kills people's soul. He killed 6 or 7 of them today. So in a way, fine. I mean, like.
What an extraordinary run by Kerley. That's it from this episode. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be back with more interesting news, insights, facts and figures from the World Athletic Championship. Until then, keep watching News 9. And if you liked the analysis, then don't forget to press the like button and do share it with your friends. And also, to get regular updates, press the bell button. This is Hardik Grewal signing off.